Working two jobs for the past few years has become my routine. Up at 6 a.m., out the door, and back by 10 p.m., shower, sleep, repeat. Not ideal, but it pays the bills. This particular incident happened just a couple months ago. One night, after my usual routine, I hopped in the shower. Halfway through, a noise startled me, right outside the bathroom door. A quick check revealed nothing. Must have been the house settling, I figured. Shower finished, I crawled into bed. But the odd noises continued throughout the night. Creaking, groaning, like the house was swaying in a strong wind. Except, there wasn't any wind. At one point, I even got up to investigate, flashlight in hand, but came up empty-handed. The next day was a blur. Exhausted from the lack of sleep and fueled by a questionable amount of coffee, I dragged myself through work. By the time I got home, all I craved was sleep. Straight upstairs, shower on. But before I stepped in, there it was again, that noise outside the bathroom door. This time, closer. Like something brushed past and headed into my bedroom. Unlikely as it seemed, I definitely heard the distinct pitter-patter of footsteps moving across the room. Heart pounding in my chest, I finally built up the courage to peek through the bathroom door. Nothing. A full house search revealed nothing either. Uneasy and with a prickling sensation at the back of my neck, I convinced myself it was something in the walls or under the floorboards. Showered, climbed into bed, drifted off around midnight. The moment I woke up, something felt wrong. Pitch black, so still early night. The silence was thick, heavy, pressing in on me. No idea what woke me, but somehow connected to the weird noises. I peeked towards the door, a shadow, a flicker of movement under the crack. I bolted upright, heart racing a frantic tattoo against my ribs as the shadow crept away from the door and footsteps started down the hallway. Horror froze me in place for a nightmarish moment. A surge of adrenaline finally kicked in, and I flung open the door. At the end of the hall, a dark figure stood silhouetted against the faint moonlight filtering through the window. The only distinct feature, eyes, glowing embers that pierced through me with a sense of anger and unease. Slam. Door shut, locked. The footsteps thumped down the stairs, a heavy silence descended for 30 terrifying seconds before I heard the creak of the front door opening and then closing again. He was gone. Shaking, I immediately called the police. They arrived quickly, but came up with little. Signs indicated the intruder had been there a few days, but no clue where he was hiding. Maybe during those bathroom walks. Sleeping in my bed, then hiding in the closet until my shower became his escape route. Why linger downstairs before leaving, knowing I'd seen him and likely called the police? All speculation at this point. The thought of a stranger lurking in my house while I slept is horrifying. It leaves a cold sweat lingering on my skin and a knot of unease permanently lodged in my gut. Thankfully, he hasn't returned, and there have been no leads on his identity. But the memory lingers, a constant reminder that even the supposed comfort and security of your own home can hold unexpected scares. It's a reminder to be vigilant, to trust your instincts, and to never underestimate the importance of a good lock on the door. And a good night's sleep. I sometimes don't remember correctly how everything happened. Was I asleep the whole time? Was I even awake? Thinking of all that scares me a lot. Last year, I traded city life for a work-from-home job in a new, remote house. The peace and quiet were amazing, especially after the constant bustle of the city. But one regular weekday afternoon, that peace was shattered. A knock on the door. The first visitor I'd had since moving in. Intrigued, I opened the door to a tall, middle-aged man. A friendly smile on my face, I waited to hear his reason for being there. Instead, he did something bizarre. He leaned in, peering past me into the house. Weirded out, I blocked the doorway with my body before he could get another glimpse. He mumbled something and retreated down the driveway, disappearing into a parked car that sped off. The strangest encounter ever. That night, unease gnawed at me. Should I call the police? It seemed silly, a man just looking in, right? Around 9, I tried to relax with some TV. But a muffled voice cut through the quiet. 2 people, talking in my backyard. Heart pounding, I raced to the back window. Through the blinds, I saw 2 figures, one holding a long tool. They vanished into the trees. Panicking, I checked every window, nothing. Just as I started to calm down, a loud bang erupted from the front door. Peeking through the peephole, I saw a dark figure, hat pulled low. One of the men from the yard. Fear turned to anger. "What do you want?" I yelled. He stared at the side of the house, then back at me. Silence. This was terrifying. Back in the living room, I fumbled for my phone. Before I could dial, a ferocious banging echoed from the back door. Shovel against wood. He saw me, then bolted. Confused and scared, I debated hiding or calling the police. The answer was obvious, but before I could act, another sound filled the air, shattering glass from the side window. Phone in hand, I dialed 911 as the intruder continued his assault. Just as the dispatcher answered, everything went eerily quiet. It stayed that way until the police arrived. As they pulled in, commotion erupted outside. The man from the door. The same one who'd visited earlier. Detained, he refused to explain anything about the other man, despite the clear damage. Weeks later, he remained silent. Who was he? Why was he there? What was the other man's purpose? The unanswered questions still creep me out. Why the break-in attempt? What role did the first visitor play? Unsettled, I moved soon after. But a nagging fear lingered, what if they weren't after the house, but me? Then came the Craigslist ad. An office chair, barely used, needed a new home. A quick response, a buyer willing to pay my asking price. Perfect. We arranged to meet at a public place, the Walmart parking lot. Friday afternoon, I called to confirm, then drove over. He mentioned a generic gray Honda Civic, which wasn't much help. He knew my car's description, so I figured he'd spot me easily. Minutes ticked by, no sign of him. Texts and calls went unanswered. Nearly an hour wasted. Frustrated, I decided to leave. Halfway home, a realization struck me, a car had been following me. Panic surged. But as I turned onto my street, it peeled away. Back home, tossing my things down, I heard a car pull up. A dark red sedan, parked right in front of my house. The car from earlier? Quickly, I grabbed the chair, dashed inside, secured the garage, and locked everything. Peeking out the window, the car sat there, engine running. No response to texts. My unease escalated. Suddenly, a car door slammed. A dark figure stood beside the car, inspecting the house. Blinds slammed shut. Dialing 911, I reported a creepy stalker. They dispatched an officer. A quick peek revealed the car, but the man was gone. My heart pounded as I checked every window. Finally, at the back door, I saw him again, inside my fenced backyard, staring up at the house. He started walking away, then vanished. The police arrived, car still parked outside, the man nowhere to be found. Even weirder, the car was completely empty, no ID, not a single fingerprint. Apparently, a junkyard years ago, but that was the earliest record they had of it. The police were just as weirded out as I was, especially since the man just disappeared, leaving his car behind and showing no effort to break in. One thing we can say almost for certain is that it was likely the same man from List who had used an untraceable email and account and followed me from the Walmart parking lot to my house. It's been a couple months since all of this. But I am still worried, because why else would he have taken the time to inspect my house on all sides if he wasn't planning on coming back any day now to finish whatever it was he came to do? Was he here to kill me? Harm me in any way? I guess I'll find out someday. Or maybe I'll see him in my dreams.